Coming up, Tzu Chi volunteers extend their love to residents in need of some assistance in the Philippines. Through recycling and reduction, Tzu Chi's environmental mission helped put an end to Taiwan's trash problem. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Mary Lee-Shioda. Thank you for joining us. In 2013, the Philippines was struck by Typhoon Haiyan. In the aftermath, Tzu Chi volunteers were there to extend love and assistance to the region, especially the hard-hit Tacloban. Recently, volunteers made some home visitations to some economically disadvantaged families living along the shore. There, they met with two mothers whose children are in need of long-term help as care recipients.
Making their way through the heat, volunteers make their way to this humble wooden home pieced together by the residents. Lying in a hammock is young Anna May, who suffers from epilepsy and cerebral palsy. Her ailments make it impossible for her to attend school or be without her mother. Cradled in her mother's arms, she is carefree, but also can't understand the trouble and anxiety her mother faces.
As a mother, seeing my child like this is very difficult. I would give anything for her, anything for my child.
Susan and her husband raise a few pigs, make bread, and do odd jobs to make a living. But with their meager income, they are unable to pay for the medication that Anna May needs. With help from Tzu Chi, not only can they afford medicine, they also have some extra to buy milk to ensure their daughter's good health. In another simple wooden structure, we find Cindy, who makes some income by helping others wash clothes. Her son suffers from congenital heart disease, and his condition is worrying.
It is only thanks to Tzu Chi that we can afford treatment for our son. I can finally rest easy.
After the devastation of 2013's Typhoon Haiyan, volunteers formed deep bonds with residents here in Tacloban. As Tzu Chi volunteers make home visitations, whether in the mountains or by the shore, they are always committed to doing everything they can to help the residents here and to improve their quality of life.
Still in the Philippines, but moving to Nueva Ecija province, last year 2 typhoons devastated the area, and as a result of Tzu Chi's assistance, seeds of love were planted there as well. In Cabanatuan City, some residents have become eager volunteers. Recently, they invited some Tzu Chi volunteers from Manila to join them on home visits in their community to spread a little love to those suffering and in need.
After preparations, these volunteers in the Philippines' Nueva Ecija region, as well as some from Manila, set out. First is a visit to an 8-year-old girl who is suffering from acute kidney inflammation. Her mother is worried because she doesn't have the money for the medication.
My daughter is only 8 years old. I couldn't bear losing her. I can only make about $3 a day, not enough to buy medicine. Without Tzu Chi, there will be no way. I'm so hopeful that you can all help us.
This is 28-year-old Claudette. Last year, she was diagnosed with osteonecrosis of her femur. She has been unable to collect enough money for the necessary surgery.
I really hope I can get better because I want to be able to help my mother and my family live a better life. As much as I dream, it is still not a reality. I just pray that someday I will walk again.
Cabanatuan City was struck by 2 major typhoons last year. In the wake of disaster, Tzu Chi formed deep bonds with the community here. And since then, many residents have become volunteers themselves.
I was so happy after I met Tzu Chi. After accompanying volunteers on home visitations today, I realize now how many people around me are really in need of help.
These families we visited today, they are all really in need. When I think of myself, I realize how fortunate I am. And I also feel fortunate that I am in a position to help them as well.
Making home visitations in the community, these new volunteers are gaining valuable experience while learning about suffering and gratitude. With their new experience, the desire to spread love and alleviate suffering of others only grows stronger.
We want to help out these people. Some are in worse conditions than others, but when I think of everyone suffering, it makes me want to use even more energy to do all that I can to help.
In the aftermath of the Weiguan apartment collapse in Tainan, 2 Zhen sisters were safely rescued. However, their mother and father were tragically lost in the disaster. Recently, Tzu Chi volunteers went to visit the grandfather, Zheng Kongming, to console and see if he needed some assistance.
Nearly 2 months after the earthquake struck southern Taiwan, the 2 sisters are still being treated in Tainan. Unfortunately, it is impossible for the family of 3 generations to reunite.
Sometimes, when the kids didn't have evening school, they would come to visit, and they'd bring the kids, the whole family. My son was always a hard worker. That was just his personality. He was always there to help me with any little thing. I think he saw it as his personal responsibility.
Thinking of his son is painful, but luckily his 2 granddaughters were safely rescued from the collapse. The 2 sisters even drew maps to help rescuers search for their parents in the immediate aftermath. Now that his son's fate is known, Tzu Chi volunteers are worried about the grandfather who's living all alone.
I really do worry that after he leaves here, that this pain will only be suppressed. There is no way to know if it will ever be alleviated.
After this semester finishes, the girls will come back to Kaohsiung to continue studying. From then, I will have to be their parent and look after them.
These compassionate volunteers hope that they can be filial in place of Mr. Zhen's son to help him overcome this trauma. Long after the leave today, volunteers will continue to visit and check on Mr. Zhen's condition as well as his granddaughters. Everyone hopes in the future this family of 3 will find some happiness after the girls return to Kaohsiung.
In July and August last year, Myanmar experienced heavy rains that caused flooding of some farmlands. To help the local residents recover from the devastation, Tzu Chi began distributing rice seeds to those farmers who were heavily affected. Another distribution was held, and this time it was joined by the head of Tay Pyar village, who brought along 20-some volunteers to help the distribution to go smoothly.
After massive flooding in Myanmar in 2015, which devastated paddies, Tzu Chi has continued to hold rice seed distributions in heavily affected areas for the farmers. This is the 44th time. Before the distribution began, Tzu Chi volunteers held a small informative meeting, and a few locals from Tay Pyar village volunteered to be in charge of making lunch for everyone.
Tzu Chi's assistance has made me realize the importance of quitting my chewing betel nut habit. I just want to do good from now on.
Last year when the flood happened, our farmland was flooded. I was so worried that I had a heart attack. Afterwards, Tzu Chi came to distribute rice seeds for everyone. My husband said he wanted to join the volunteers' ranks, and I agreed and support him wholeheartedly.
Helping at the distribution is the head of Tay Pyar village, who has brought a few strongmen to help carry the rice home for the rest of the village. Ever since he began his volunteer training, Uang Ten has been very happy that he would be helping others in need.
There are 3 people in my family currently in training to be a volunteer. My other children have expressed a willingness as well to join the Tzu Chi path. This is good for society, as many people join hands to bring harmony to the world.
Doing good deeds isn't something exclusive to the rich. The poor can do good deeds as well. The master says, if one has the heart, then anyone can do good deeds. This is why I like Tzu Chi. It makes me happy to be a volunteer alongside other people.
Seeing how much my father has changed since becoming a volunteer, I wanted to participate to experience the changes myself.
As a father and village head, Uang Ten leads his family and fellow neighbors to join in doing good deeds. In the future, this group of do-gooders in Tay Pyar village is sure to shine their compassion on more forgotten corners of Myanmar.
As Taiwan enjoyed its economic boom in the 80s and 90s, obscene amount of trash was also produced. Due to wastage and lack of recycling, the trash quickly overwhelmed the country's landfills, while people protested against building more landfills and incinerators. Amidst the conflict, Master Zhen Yin called out to her supporters to actualize Tzu Chi's environmental mission, which eventually solved the problem and also transformed Taiwan's people.
In Taiwan, problems of waste management often made headlines between 80s and 90s.
那时候的一个处理，就是大家没有。
Back then, no one sorted the trash. Everything was just lumped together and thrown into the trash bin. Actually, there are no trash bins back then. People just dumped their trash at the trash collection points.
Formerly a senior specialist at the Taichung Environmental Protection Bureau, Luo still remembers that landfills were quickly running out of room, while people protested against building new ones.
No one tried to reduce their trash by sorting. By throwing everything into a landfill, of course it will run out of room quickly. Back then, finding a new landfill was very difficult.
A night market littered with trash after the closing hour was very common then. In 1990, when Master Zhen Yin gave a speech in Taichung, she was inspired to address the problem.
恁会当鼓掌，会振两只手，就会当做啥物？垃圾分类啦，对不对呢？就是我足期待。
However, people did not know much about conservation and recycling back then. Despite the master's call, most were not sure just exactly what they can do.
听到上人讲用
When I heard the master asking us to use the hands that we use to clap to recycle, I went home and decided to put the thought into action.
做出来。
Only in her 20s back then, young Pei San began collecting old newspaper and metal cans and donated the proceeds from selling the recyclables to Tzu Chi. She was the first of Tzu Chi's recycling volunteers. Next year, Tzu Chi volunteer Juan Suzhen also established the first Tzu Chi recycling point, just outside of her home in Taichung's Limin Xinchun.
I led by setting an example. I established a recycling point just outside my home. My neighbors then automatically brought theirs here. This was the first recycling point.
However, starting something new is always difficult. At the time, there weren't enough volunteers, and transporting the recyclables was also a problem. Most importantly, some neighbors didn't agree with the idea.
Some of my neighbors complained about seeing heaps of trash right outside their doorway, so we moved and moved. In total, we relocated 4 times. We also didn't have the car to transport the recyclables or the manpower to sort the trash.
With changes in time, Tzu Chi's environmental mission faced different obstacles and criticisms. Overcoming one challenge after the next, the mission began to build up momentum as people became more environmentally conscious. Soon, littering decreased significantly in Taiwan.
The Tzu Chi Foundation devoted a lot of time and effort to promote recycling and waste reduction. Now, 20 to 30 years later, most Taiwanese have come to embrace these ideas.
Though times have changed, waste continues to be produced. Thus, there will be no end to environmental protection. Only by everyone doing their part and endorsing conservation can people continue to enjoy a clean environment.
As more and more people in China do their shopping online, the demand for packaging materials also increases. To help minimize the impact that used packaging has on the environment, in Shanghai's Minhang and Jiabei districts, Tzu Chi volunteers have been collecting them on a regular basis every month. Some residents have therefore learned to leave their recyclables at their doors or even bring them to the collection points.
Tzu Chi volunteers collect recyclables from door to door in Jiabei district. It takes a lot of efforts to go up and down the stairs many times to bring the recyclables to the collection points. We do recycling to keep the environment clean. After this old lady knows about it, she places the recyclables at her door on a regular basis.
She can sell the recyclables, but she doesn't, because she knows it is important to keep the environment clean, so she leaves the recyclables to us to do good deeds.
Even the street cleaner leaves the recyclables to Tzu Chi volunteers.
I can do some good deeds, so I want to do them. It's quite easy.
Volunteers have ways to deal with littering.
People drop garbage in the garbage can, so if I put a bag next to it, people will put it in the bag instead.
When it's time to collect the recyclables, the residents bring their recyclables from home to the collection point and help sort recyclables.
Normally, I would complain that there is garbage everywhere, but I just talk about it and didn't clean it. Now there's a good chance to do it, so I came to take part. It feels quite good.
The volunteers teach the residents about environmental protection at the plaza. One teacher also takes the students there to learn about environmental protection.
In Taiwan, Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital recently held a camp for its newly recruited doctors and physicians in training. During the camp, the attendees strengthened their commitment to serve the needy, thanks to the encouragement of their supervisors and senior doctors.
At the camp for doctors of the Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital, Dr. Jian Shouxing, the superintendent of Taichung Tzu Chi Hospital, encourages these young doctors with his speech on the non-stop mission of medical role models.
The image at the bottom looks like a footprint, so we need to be mindful with every step we take, whether it is on the ground or in our heart. It is actually very important to leave these imprints.
As the Hualien Hospital enters its 30th year, it held a camp for new recruits and physicians in training at Jingsi Abode, which is also attended by the hospital supervisors.
I believe the growth of the young doctors is also the growth of our hospital. They will become the backbone of Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital. I believe the second 30 years of the hospital will steadily make more progress.
After today's class, I feel that I need to rekindle my initial aspiration to study traditional Chinese medicine in order to overcome setbacks.
After the doctors expressed themselves sincerely, Master Zheng Yan also encourages them to make a difference in other people's life.
他的健康由我们来守护他，他的生命由我们来照顾他，他的身心病苦由我们来爱他，这都是呢大医王的最宝贵的，也就是呢人生最有价值的。
Having strengthened their commitment to serve, these newcomers of the medical team will be the new strength of the hospital in safeguarding life and health.
Tzu Chi Great Love Preschool and Kindergartens in Monrovia and Walnut, California had a special end-of-the-year outing to the U.S. Tzu Chi headquarters. The students were accompanied by some 50 parents who were not only given the chance to learn more about environmental protection, but also to learn more about Tzu Chi.
Under these blue skies, this green grass is shaded by nearby trees. The children from Tzu Chi Great Love Preschool and Kindergarten in Monrovia and Walnut are getting the chance to learn more about Tzu Chi. They're not only learning about the organization, but also engaging in recycling and playing games.
I did something for the environment today, picking up cans and plastic bottles for recycling.
Children visiting the small hut, which is a replica of the place Master Zheng Yan once lived in, learn about how fortunate they truly are.
I saw how hard the master's bed was and how small the room was.
Children still struggle to comprehend half a century of Tzu Chi's history, but character-based education is subtly taking root in their hearts and minds.
朋友是很喜欢慈济这个环境。
My child loves this Tzu Chi environment. When I told him he has to go to public school next year, he was very reluctant. In the future, I hope we have a chance to continue interacting with Tzu Chi's education, which will give them more chances to benefit from virtuous education.
接受更多这个善的循环。
In the past few years, the trend for young people to gain overseas work experience has changed from going on a working holiday to working overseas. With today's youth being ambitious and adventurous, they look for opportunities to gain financial independence as well as broaden their global perspective. In today's series about the talent exodus in Taiwan, we take an in-depth look at the problem. With a balloon in his hand, 30-year-old Alan Lee-Shioda can bend and twist it into a rose for a lady, or the popular figure Hulk for a child. 2 years ago, Alan went to Australia on a working holiday and was changed by the experiences he came across.
Australia is a very multicultural country, much like a miniature United Nations. The time there inspired me to want to visit more countries, as I've only been to Australia, and it seemed there is still much that I don't understand.
我先拿一条长的，两边的头把它绑起来。
Many new Taiwanese venture into the world in search of an adventure and a new perspective on life like Alan. But after 2013, working holidays quickly turned into working overseas. According to the Ministry of Labor, approximately 15,000 to 20,000 people per year make the leap to work overseas, of which over 60% blame the move on Taiwan's low wages, while more than half say that this broadens their perspective. Almost 28% of the group believes that this will lead to a better future. Globally, businesses and countries have also implemented policies to attract talents.
In Singapore, the work visa and residency permit are tied together. If you are deemed an asset to the country, policies are already in place so that you can easily apply for residency and even immigrate there.
If we compare top financial talents in Taiwan with their counterparts in Singapore or Hong Kong, abroad the salary bracket easily exceeds $300,000.
In more recent years, Taiwanese businesses, especially the food industry, have also begun to invest in Asian countries, which means executives are in need. Now a sales executive at a tech company, Wu Mingqi was only a sales rep making $1,000 in Taiwan just 6 years ago. But when he was assigned to China, he was promoted to a manager and doubled his salary. Then he was headhunted and moved back to Taiwan to become a partner of a new business.
It didn't occur to me that I would return to Taiwan. I had planned on continuing to work in China because I knew the pay structure in Taiwan isn't too good. If it wasn't an opportunity to start my own business, which attracted me, I wouldn't have returned.
Taiwan's young people are hardworking and dedicated, but with companies focusing on maximizing their profit margins, while lacking a global strategy, they can only look abroad for better opportunities. Only when a suitable work environment has been created will talents be willing to stay and serve. At the end of the program, we joined Tzu Chi volunteers in Taichung's Beitun district, where they held an event to welcome newly certified commissioners to the big Tzu Chi family. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.